These are my working notes on context and the importance of being able to recontextualize yourself as a quantum being. What does this mean? Our relationship to the world, how we interface, experience the world, is a relationship of subject to object, which is highly contextualized. Let's say what cookie represents to me might be a different thing than what cookie represents to you. How you interface with cookies depends on your individual context. Money. How do we see it? How do we use it? How do we apply it? How do we value it? All right. So there is a context that can put some things above you and some things beneath you, and also you can, through context, assign meaning where you put people, circumstances above you or beneath you. Or you can find a really heart-centered approach where you can level with any object or construct of reality in a wider sense. So that could be circumstances. Okay, so the heart center is really important because you want to level with things and work with things in a way where you can decontextualize anything that makes you superior or inferior, because that's just an ego trip, basically. It's a distortion of contextualization. Now, let's talk about some examples of context. So let's say I can assume a different role when I'm playing in this game of life. So I assume the role of a philosopher, like I'm doing right now. I'm playing with concepts, I'm playing with thoughts, and I am just analyzing different perspectives so I can find different assembly of meaning. And for a philosopher, it is enough to play with this. It kind of like opens up a new synaptical flow. You become more wise about the structures of reality. You can take many perspectives. There are infinite structures. You can take in infinite perspectives. So it's just an endless play. Yeah. And if you take Alan Watts, for example, who was a prominent philosopher of our time, he's a very interesting man to listen to, because just listening to his little play of perspectives that he can eloquently also describe gives you many aha moments. It kind of like takes the edge off, because you can feel like you're becoming more familiar with life. It might not change your life. It might not even change your context, but at least you get a temporary relief, like the edge is taking off, because there's a friction between all these juxtapositions of subjects and objects when we interface with reality. So when somebody comes and brings you a non-dual perspective on this and non-dual perspective on that, and then that makes sense. So I can come into this space, and my only idea is to nerd out about stuff. Yeah. On the other hand, I might assume a role of a magician. Now, as a magician, I can apply the meaning or an assumption to reality, which means, yes, I can construct a paradigm, but then also I can deploy that paradigm, and that paradigm becomes manifest. So as a magician, I will use actually contextualization and decontextualization. When we talk about manifestation, law of attraction is like you create an assumption, a visualization, an idea of reality, and then you let it go. But then you send it out, and then it becomes a structure that you have as an experience in the real world, in the physical appearance of your experience or events that takes place in your experience. So a magician does that. And for a magician, it might be not relevant if anybody else is in tune with this. So you're simply playing with reality or creating reality. Now, another type of magician would be a performing magician, where you could also add a different context to this, where you're going to have an audience. So let's say I'm going to perform in America Got Talent. Now, what I can apply for myself and manifest in my reality becomes structurally a little bit more complicated when there are people observing, because then I need to add another level to that, which is I have to persuade also everybody to observe what I'm creating. So I become a performer too. And as a performer, then I need to capture or seduce everybody else's awareness, point of awareness, into what I am creating. And also, if I'm creating something that is out of the scope of everyday reality, like walking on water or things, I also then have to perform a show which will give plausible ground to everybody who is observing that they can witness that. If it's outside of their expectation template, outside of something that they believe, it's by the law of resonance impossible for them to see that. So I have to say, so I will do a trick, and this is going to be a show. And then I can actually do some quantum jumping on stage, which people do in America Got Talent. But the audience is simply going along with it because we insert a presumption that this is a work of fiction or a work of trickstery. In the meantime, somebody might actually be just teleporting stuff. But for everybody else to witness that, it needs to come in a way that they also expect it to come. So you need to call it something that's plausible for everybody else. So this is the difference between performing and just creating magic in your own reality. So performance magic, it needs to be a little bit more it's a different context, okay? So it needs a little bit more skills that are different than simply skills that you apply to manifestation. So for me to persuade people that something is possible, I often cannot do that because everybody rests in their own paradigm of their own individual belief. So for me to tell people about the things that are possible, often they will not believe me. But they're possible in my reality, but if I want to perform them, if somebody expects to see a result, then I need to have different skill set. Now, if I assume a role of a businessman, then my reality heavily interacts with some consensus of expectation of the general timeline reality. I am also heavily concerned about materialization of my ideas, so I'm manifesting. But I have to manifest something that is in the scope of everybody's reality. So we're going to have cookies, and you're going to have money, and we're going to give you cookies, you're going to give us money, and then we're going to measure, okay, how much money we made, and then we can go and say, okay, we made this much money, and then we need to pay the taxes also. So it has different rules. Now, for a businessman, it's even highly important that there is no trickstery, okay? Because to have a successful business, you want to actually find out what people want. And you can be a performing magician, but then when you're setting up your act from a business side, or you can be a philosopher when you're setting up your act from a business side, you need to find out what people want, and you need to give it to them and find a construct where you can exchange that for money. So let's say I could write a book, like transcribe what I'm saying here, put it in a book. I have to package it, I have to sell it, I have to find people that want to buy that book, who are interested in reading this, right? And so as a businessman, I am actually highly interested in this exchange with others. And so I need to have something that can be represented as viable for both me and my audience, or my consumers, or my clients. And now, when I think about myself, I am just an experiencer. I'm not even like human. I'm not any of these roles. I'm just consciousness, the experiencer, playing in the game of life. So there is something that is a habitual context. This is my energetic memory, my individuality, and the languages that I speak, and the physical condition of my physical vessel, of my body, that gives me something that kind of like extends my behaviors, my behavioral patterns, my habits, my whole energetic memory is something, my physical body, it's something that is transmutable. Like I can change my physical condition, I can change my energetic memory, but overall it will give me some kind of continuity. It will give me an identity when I'm showing up here on a day-to-day basis. So ultimately, it's important to actually acknowledge and understand the contextualization that is happening when the individuality is interfacing with the world at large. And there is one simple way that you can start to do this. And of course, we're all aware of ourselves to some degree. But there's this way where you can energetically start to become more aware and develop deeper awareness of your relationships, subject to object, your relationship to the world, or your relationship to some specific circumstance, whether that is a cookie or your business or whatever. The formula looks like this: I am X and the world is Y. And you want to feel if there is some kind of friction between X and Y, or is there some kind of attraction between X and Y, or if there's equanimity between X and Y, or there's just love and sort of like unconditional existence between X and Y. I have to get my dog. Give me a second. Bršo. Ajde. Ajde, sit. Okay. She's really persistent when she wants me to open the door. And so when you start to intuit your relationship subject to object, X to Y, whatever that object is in your imagination, you're going to place it in your imagination and you're going to feel, how do I relate to life? Am I attracted to life? Am I in resistance to life? Or if there is friction between me and life in general, let's say your object of experience is life in general, is there attraction there? Right? Is there like this sexual charge? because all life force is sexual energy. So is there sexual charge between life and me? Is it attractive? Is it repulsive? Is there friction? Okay. Is there neutrality? Do I feel completely neutral, completely equanimous with the outside circumstances? So this is very interesting, because then you can also look, if there is attraction, to which area of life am I attracted? If there is repulsion or frustration, where does that? You can ask your intuition to tell you, where is that, right? And then you see, let's say, for example, I'm mostly neutral to life, and that's good, and I tell you why. But let's say there are things that I'm attracted to, and this is like, I'm attracted to humans. I'm attracted to develop new type of dynamics, interact with in new type of dynamics with humans. I'm attracted to like women. I want to dance. I want to dance like a tango with a woman, right? So that's something that's kind of like, it's having this like positive sexual tension where it's just like calling me, it's inviting me, right? And tango in itself, it's a very beautiful, also dynamic, it's a very beautiful play between the masculine and feminine. So I'm also attracted to things like, I'm attracted to now structures that I want to create, architectures, business, money, like ideas of like flowing, generating, structuring a lot of money. So these are some things that I opened up and they call me, right? And then some things that also I have attraction to, I also have a repulsion to. So let's say, just like this car is popping up to my, like, so recently I've kind of like, an automobile, like a very beautiful, luxurious automobile, started to like show up in my reality. Then I was like, okay, so this is like showing up again. I used to have this car before. It was not technically like mine, but it was like assigned to me. So I drove it and it was nice. And then lately I pondered about the idea, well, maybe like I'm kind of like living here now. Maybe I want to get a car. What car should I get? And now this car started to appear, right? And so it's obviously to me that it sort of wants to manifest in my reality, and that's not a problem. But even though I'm attracted to it, at the same time, something in my context is also like repulsed. And then I can go and I can check that out, and I can go deeper and open up each of these individual tabs, each of these individual windows, and just like ask my intuition, so what is that is actually kind of frustrating about the car that I know that I want? And then it opens up and I say, okay, so it's like questions, which is, am I really going to stay here? Do I really need it? Where I'm going to park it? Who's going to take care of it if I'm not here? And so then you can resolve these things. Once you get a clear idea, you may see energetically that then your relationship, for example, me to this car, is now just purified desire, so there's just pure attraction to that. Or I can even then let go of that, as we do in manifestation, like you imagine the attraction and feel, okay, and then let it go, and then your relationship to that car becomes just like very neutral, because now it's just something that is already there. So you may still like it, but you're neutral to it. The liking then is probably something that, like, I have these cookies here. Okay, let's say I have these cookies here. They're just there. But when I start to think about them, I start to like that they're there. But otherwise, they're here and it's okay. I just have them here. So the thing with the repulsion and attraction, these are the two forces in reality which are actually the engine of our choice and desire. So without entering a subject-object relationship, we cannot summon up a desire, okay? Because we need to resist something or become tired of something that it becomes a frustration in order to create a desire that is then propelling us to the opposite polarity of that. Now the polarities are not like defined, they're also highly contextual. So let's say what is the opposite of a cookie for you might be a diet, and what is an opposite of a cookie for me might be a salad or might be a banana. And it really depends on the contextualization and on the moment. So let's say if I'm creating a desire, oh my god, I can't have any more bananas, let's have some cookies, then the frustration with the banana is propelling me toward the choice of a cookie. So once you understand there is always this mechanics playing in the context of your individuality, and they are helping you to create a desire, then you will also begin to understand that once you can purify your desire from these mechanics, okay, that drive your choice, then this desire manifests. So when we imagine something and we feel like we already are in that experience, and we enter the feeling of that experience. So it's not me having a car, or me eating the cookie, or me, I don't know, operating a business or whatever. It's all about me, actually. How do I feel when I'm eating a cookie? How do I feel when I'm worrying about who's gonna drive my car if I go to a different country, or where I'm gonna leave it? Or me, how do I feel when I'm driving this car? So there are different layers of meaning and different layers of context in our relationship to any object or construct of an experience that we can imagine. Before that experience can become manifest or appear as a physical reality, for us, we will first need to purify every layer of context and every motoric of attraction and repulsion. So the attraction repulsion, it makes us move, it makes us feel, it makes us desire, it makes us also want to get away from certain things. We say these things no longer serve us, but they're actually also becoming frustrating if we loop in these things. They don't give us the feeling of expansion, they give us the feeling of stagnancy, then they give us the feeling of frustration, resentment, and then finally, if we don't move, we become on fire, we become angry, so we simply then need to move away from that. And then we find the future that is awaiting for us, always. So, purifying the desire, you need to purify every layer of this push and pull. Now, what happens when we are neutral to things? When we are neutral to different appearances, constellations of reality. Whatever we don't have any push and pull, we can control that. Actually, effortlessly. So it's not like asserting an effort to control, but whatever is just there, like, I don't know, like you're indifferent to taxis, you just don't have to think about it, you just take a cab and you say, take me from point A to point B, you pay the money, and it's just something that you're very that's very normal for you. So you never have to think about it. You never have to actually play within your imagination. Do I want to take a cab, or is it going to be a traffic jam? Whatever contextualization you could put on that would make it complex. So you can just have that. And all the other things that you're not choosing, they're simply default. And so even the matters of life and death could be a default for you if you already played in that arena, that you're like, I don't know, a master of martial arts and a father of 12 children, At some point, you need to become indifferent to the fact that you can use some skill that you have and ninjutsu and just press and then somebody will die, because it just becomes like a default thing for you. So you have a finger of that, touch of that, but that's just not a thing anymore, right? But if you start to learn about it, if you start to practice that, it's a thing. Also, after having children, grandchildren, it's all nice, but sometimes it's like, okay, it's just whatever. First time you got pregnant, or your girlfriend got pregnant, it was a big deal. Probably. So this is how we learn about experiences. First, they form big impressions, and all impressions are made from positive and negative polarities. And as we learn and integrate some choices that we previously made, we transcend them. We simply become very normal, very neutral about that. And so it is very, let's say, first time you're creating your business, or like you're starting to work in the world when you're like in your 20s, and you think about making $1 million, and it sounds like this big thing, and it's giving you a lot of information. There's many journeys that you can take to get there, and all of these journeys are filled with choices. So it will be just a constant inflow of information that gives you both positive and negative charge, because you can then always choose at every single crossroad, at every single forking on your journey. There's many things to choose from. So all in all, when you think about some end result, serving a million clients, selling 1 million copies of your book, earning $1 million, whatever is like some like compound accumulation throughout your journey, when you first think about that, it might give you like a lot of feelings. But after you travel that journey, it might be just like, okay, that's something that's kind of like that you're very used to. I remember me buying my first toy when I was 7 years old. It was like this adventure. I saw a Ninja Turtle, and then my mom, she didn't want to get it for me, or because she had her own mind. But my desire was so strong. So I had to find my way back to the city, and I was just a kid. I never used to go. I was maybe even younger than 7. So I never used to go alone, because I was like a tiny human. I never took the bus on my own, right? And so, but I remember the route, and I remember how to take the bus, and I had some money from my grandpa. And so I went there, and I got the Ninja Turtle, and it was like this whole adventure. And then I remember the pressure that I felt when my mom discovered that I have the toy, and she knew that she didn't get it for me. Okay, but then she was like, how did you get a toy? It was not really plausible for her that I was able to just go take the bus and just find my way to the city and then purchase something, right? Because I never did that before. So she was like a little bit, I just said I did it, and she was like a little bit fascinated and kind of scared for me, moms. So anyway, the thing back then for me, and also throughout my life, every next step, me renting an apartment, me, I don't know, buying a car for the first time, it was like this thing. I'm just like, okay. You're kind of like at that level of maturity, at that age where it kind of becomes normal because people around you are doing that. And so you can learn from your peers, and then that becomes normal. But it's always like some new step. But right now, if I need to go and purchase a Ninja Turtle for my kid, it's really not a thing. It's not like a big adventure. It's just kind of like default, very normal, very equanimous state without emotional charge for me. I don't have so much emotions. I can simply go into the store. I'm like, do you like this one? I like this one. Do you like this one? And I purchase a toy in a very effortless manner. So you can also imagine that for somebody who is, I don't know, a millionaire or billionaire, to drop a couple of mil on an investment, it's like a text message. It's nothing big. It's maybe a little bit of rational contemplation about, okay, that sounds like a good asset, and then texting your accountant and be like, okay, drop a couple mil on that investment. Thanks. Can you also bring some ice cream on your way? Like, I feel like some vanilla ice cream. Thanks. Everything becomes really flat. So the flat things, the things that you're flat with, you're already used to that context. So that context is, you're the master of that context. But change the context slightly, new choices present themselves. So you need to be able to kind of like go into the context and then feel and analyze your relationship to that reality or to that object, and then defragment the context and see what it is, what kind of information it is creating for you emotionally. Sit with that, integrate, and then puff, you can do that next thing. Okay, Bambi. Ciao.